So hello, I am here leading the cat chat for today. And before we get started, I just want to say a little something about who I am. My name is Jay Middleton. I am one of the doctoral counseling interns at our counseling center. So what that means is I've gone through PhD training at Louisiana Tech, done all the coursework, done a lot of the practice work, and then for the last year of my training, and everyone who goes through PhD training in psychology works full-time somewhere for a year. And so I'm working at our counseling center for this year. And so that's a little bit about me. And so mindfulness practice. So I have a question for everyone in here. Have you ever been talking to someone and really sharing something important, something emotional, something that hurts, and it seems like they were spacing off? Right? They weren't looking at you, they were looking up and away. What do you think was going on with them? What do you think they were doing? Daydreaming. Yeah. Thinking about something else, someone else, anything but being there in the moment with you. And I think that's really common. All of us do that. All of us will be talking to someone and either staring at our phones or on our laptop, or have you been in a class and a couple of minutes before the class ends, you hear everyone rustling to get their backpack and get ready to leave? Yeah, at that point, do you think people are there in the class anymore, really? No, they've already checked out. In a similar vein, has anyone in here ever felt or had a thought that was really negative and they couldn't make it go away? Like something you kept thinking about over and over and over and over again? Yeah, that's really common. What happens is when you feel something bad, what's the first thing you want it to do? When you have a negative feeling, you feel sad, what do you want to happen to that sadness? Go away. Yeah, and so we go away, and what do? We try to think of ways to make ourselves happy or make ourselves get rid of these negative thoughts, and we keep pushing at them and pushing at them and pushing at them. Do we find that works most of the time, trying to push these negative thoughts away? No. No, in fact, the more you try to, tell yourself, I want to be happy, I want to be happy, I want to be happy, and you're actually, in a way, kind of reinforcing these negative feelings. You're kind of becoming entrenched in them. Or here's something else that I see, and I include myself in this. I'm not special. I do these the same way too. But have you ever been so consumed in what you're feeling or thinking that you've just been oblivious to what's going on around you? Right? Where you had such a negative event happen to you that you don't remember someone talking to you, or you don't remember something going on. And I'll give you an example of this. I've known people, I include myself, who will get their grades right at the end of the quarter, or the end of the semester. Sorry, I was on the quarter system at Tech, but at the end of the semester, get your grades, and you see them, and you're like, yay, I got good grades. And then the first thing you do is think about next semester. Have you ever done that? Like immediately done well in something, but immediately started thinking about, hey, is this going to make my parents happy? Or hey, what are other people going to think? Or hey, can I keep this up? And so something even positive we end up drifting away from, right? In that present moment, we forget about it and automatically go to the future or the past. And yet, the other part of this is that, you can't tell yourself not to stop thinking about something. So I have a brief challenge for everyone. For the next 10 seconds, so after I say it, I want to say something, and then I don't want you to think about it for 10 seconds. So for the next 10 seconds, don't think about a polar bear. Go. So did everyone immediately think of a polar bear? Yeah, and that's what we do with our thoughts. If you try to think, oh, I don't want to be depressed, or oh, I don't want to be angry, or I want to be over this, saying that to yourself just kind of traps you in this vicious circle. It's kind of similar to, have you ever had a sore in your mouth or a loose tooth and it hurt, but what couldn't you stop doing? Playing with it. And we do that with our thoughts, and we go over them over and over and over again. And that's really kind of scary to me, right? I mean, I wonder how much of our day we have all this going on. You're in school, you have classes, you're meeting new people. And I wonder how much of the day is spent not here, but thinking about the future or the past. How much of the moment that you're actually here right now? That's really hard to say because it's not like you keep a timer going on. But I wonder, even when good things happen, we think and worry, how am I going to be successful? How am I going to achieve the things I want? But when you actually get there, are you actually going to be present for it? Or are you just going to be worrying about the next thing? And so it's this idea that we're not here right now, that we're either always thinking about the future and worrying, or something in the past often makes us sad. And our minds are really good storytellers. They're able to hook us with a great story that we tell ourselves over and over again, regardless of whether it's true or not. I'm no good, or no one will love me, or that person really pisses me off. And we say these things to ourselves over and over and over and over again. And we treat them like they're real. So what is mindfulness exactly? And so I'm going to go over, I want to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes going over the basic principles. And then I'm a big fan of believing the best way to learn about something is doing it. And we're going to do a mindfulness practice that'll take about 10 or 15 minutes if you're comfortable doing it. You don't have to participate if you don't want. So just kind of 4 basic overviews of mindfulness. First, it's based on Eastern meditation traditions. You'd think of Buddhist meditation traditions. It is by no means dependent on any belief or ideology. I know lots of people from a variety of faiths and backgrounds, or lack thereof, that are able to use these techniques to help themselves. Really, mindfulness is about being in contact with the present moment. What are you feeling right here and now? And I think that's really the best summation of what mindfulness is. It is being aware of what is happening from moment by moment basis. And I want to say the third thing is, this is kind of in contrast with what I've been talking about. And this is that we spend most of our time not here. We spend most of our time in fantasy, in memories, worrying about the future. Am I good enough? Am I going to get good enough grades? How's that test going to go tomorrow? Or, oh, I screwed up this test. Or, oh, relationships always go bad. We spend all our moments thinking about anything but the present moment, right? We're living our lives either in the future or past and never really being aware of what's going on right now. And second on this screen, is that when you're making contact with the present moment and you have thoughts and feelings, our natural inclination is to judge those thoughts or feelings. Is that feeling right or wrong? Does it make sense? Should I be having that feeling? And what mindfulness suggests is that when we have thoughts or feelings, we should not judge them. We should just accept them as they are. And we do this all the time with our thoughts. I mean, I tend to be kind of a thinking, rational person. The first thing I do with a thought or a suggestion or a feeling, does that make sense? And then I spend so much time trying to figure out, does it make sense? What about this? Or what about that? That I never really make contact with what that feeling is or what that thought is. And so you want to, when we as I talk about this, if you have thoughts or feelings, just let them be. Don't figure out if they're right or wrong or good or bad or up or down or make sense or not. That doesn't matter. Just experiencing it is what matters. So here are a few things mindfulness is not. It is not positive thinking, right? Because positive already gets us into this mindset about right or wrong or good or bad. It is not about having the right mindset. It is just about accepting the mindset you already have, whatever that may be. Second, it is not a relaxation technique. On PowerPoint, if you could see it, I got it and it said it is not just a relaxation technique. And I would argue it's not a relaxation technique at all. When you're being mindful, you might feel relaxed, but the purpose is not to be relaxed. It is to feel whatever you are feeling, to make contact with it. And that can be really scary to hear. I mean, how many of us try to avoid what we feel because it's scary or is painful? It is not going into a trance. And kind of tied to this, it's not trying to blank your mind. I've kind of heard those things. I'm not sure what people mean by this, but it is not trying to empty your mind or erase your mind. It is just trying to accept what occurs in your mind in a non-judgmental way. And we're going to do a more formal practice of this in here today. And there's lots of ways. There's these traditional meditation techniques or mindfulness movements or setting practice or breathings, all these exercises. And we're going to do a formal one. But there's an informal ones that we can do all the time. Has anyone ever driven so many times from point A to B that they drive it one time and they don't ever remember doing the drive? Yeah, it's not, I'm sure you were a safe driver. I know I was a safe driver during that. It's just that you don't remember the experience. And we do this with little things all the time, but you can practice mindfulness with these little things. Brushing your teeth. I know when I'm doing my morning routine, I'm off. Like I'm already thinking about my day. I'm not thinking about, I'm doing these things, but I'm not thinking about them. And so mindfulness would suggest that it's helpful to actually pay attention to brushing your teeth and what that experience is like. Pay attention to the sensations you feel in the shower. What is that like? I know this seems a little abstract because we haven't actually done a mindfulness technique, but we will, and so maybe this will make a little more sense after we're done. And I think another concept I want to stress is that being versus doing. And so a doing activity is something that you're actively trying to engage in. You're doing, you struggle against something. Mindfulness is about really being. Right? You are not striving to do something. You are not fighting or pushing away thoughts. You are just letting them be. And really, I've said this a few times, but I think it's worth repeating. Most of us live in the past or present pretty regularly. I would argue that I spend, even, I don't know how much because it's really hard to detect, but a lot of my day thinking about what's going to happen later or what has already happened. And mindfulness is more about being here in the present moment. And so that's one way to contrast it. Another concept that I think it's important is that we treat thoughts as real things, but thoughts are just momentary experiences that we're having. We'll have emotional reactions. It'll change our behavior just based on a thought, even though this thought is just an image in our head. And the same thing could be said of feelings as well. Just because you feel or think something doesn't make it true or real, or doesn't make it good or bad. It just makes it something that is in the moment. And what's interesting is we spend all this time in the past or present, but I would argue we do this automatically, right? If I automatically start talking to you about any subject, you're going to start bringing up memories of it, and you're not going to do it intentionally. What mindfulness says is to be intentional of our actions, to be aware of what we're doing. And not to go on autopilot, because that's how we spend most of our day. That's why we space out while driving. That's why we space out while doing our morning routine, because we just kind of turn our brains on and just go. Mindfulness suggests that we be intentional and that we actually feel what we're feeling in the moment. So I'm going to go through this script. You are free to partake if you want to. If you don't want to, just sit here quietly. And we're going to go through it. And then after I'm done with this, we'll have time for a few questions, and I can talk about the various resources that I have. Okay, so for this, you're going to want a little space from the person next to you. Make room to be comfortable. So if you're kind of on top of your backpack or purse or computer, kind of move that. If you need to kind of shove away from the front of your desk, I'd recommend kind of doing that. Just give yourself some space is all I'm saying, however much you need. Okay. So I invite you now to sit up straight, let your shoulders drop, and gently push your feet into the floor. And get a sense of the ground beneath you. And you can either fix your eyes on a spot or close them, whichever you prefer. Now take a moment to notice how you are setting, and notice how you are breathing. Notice what you can see. And notice what you can hear. Notice what you can feel against your skin. And notice what you can taste or sense in your mouth. Notice what you can smell or sense in your nostrils. And notice what you are feeling. Notice what you are thinking. Notice what you are doing. So there's a part of you in there that can notice everything that you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, think, and feel. We don't have a good word for this part of you in everyday language. I'm going to call it the observing self. But you don't have to call it that. You can call it whatever you like. Life is like a stage show, and on this stage are all your thoughts and all your feelings and everything that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. The observing self is the part of you that can step back and watch the stage show, focus on any part of it, or step back and take it all in at once. Now take a moment to reflect on why you came here today. This is something that matters to you, something that is important deep in your heart that motivated you to come here. Is it about improving your life, personal growth, learning skills, building better relationships? Is it about improving things at work or with your family or friends? Or perhaps it's about your health or enhancing your well-being. Just do a search deep inside to clarify what values led you here today. And now take a moment to reflect on how you got here today. You didn't get here by magic. You're only here because of committed action. You had to organize the appointments. You had to reschedule things. You had to invest time and effort and energy to get here. And yet here you are. And recognize that right now, in this moment, you're taking action. You're sitting here in a chair, doing an exercise that probably seems a bit odd or unusual. You probably have all sorts of thoughts whizzing through your head and all sorts of feelings passing through your body. And there are all kinds of things that you could be doing that are much more fun than this right now. And yet here you are, taking action to improve and enrich your life. Now for the next few breaths, I'd like you to focus on emptying out your lungs. Push all the air out of them until there's no more left. And then allow them to gently refill, all by themselves. Really notice the breath. Notice it flowing in and out. Observe it as if you're a curious scientist who's never encountered breathing before. Notice how once the lungs are empty, they automatically refill, all by themselves. You can take a deep breath in if you want to, but really notice how there's no need to. The breath just happens by itself. And I invite you now to undertake a challenge. For the next couple of minutes, keep your attention on your breath, observing it as it flows in and out. You'll find this hard because your mind is a masterful storyteller. It will tell you all sorts of interesting things to grab your attention and pull you away from what you're doing. See if you can let those thoughts come and go as if they are merely passing cars. just cars driving past outside your house. And keep your attention on your breath. Notice your breath flowing in and out. Notice your abdomen rising and falling. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Let your mind chatter away as if it's just a radio playing in the background. Don't try to turn the radio off. It's impossible. Not even Zen masters can do that. Just let it play on in the background and keep your attention on your breath. From time to time, your mind will succeed in distracting you. It will hook you with a good story, and you'll lose track of your breathing. This is normal and natural, and it will happen repeatedly. The moment you realize this has happened, take a moment to notice what hooked you and gently refocus on your breathing. As this exercise continues, the feelings and sensations in your body will change. There may be pleasant feelings showing up, such as relaxation, calm, peacefulness. And there may be unpleasant ones, such as boredom, frustration, anxiety, or backache. See if you can allow those feelings to be exactly as they are in this moment. Don't try to control your feelings. Just let them be as they are, regardless of whether they are pleasant or unpleasant, and keep your attention on your breathing. Again and again, you'll drift off into your thoughts. As soon as you realize it, acknowledge it and refocus on your breath. This is not a relaxation technique. You are not trying to relax. The aim is to let your feelings be as they are, to feel whatever you feel without struggle. So if you are noticing a difficult feeling, then silently say to yourself, here's a feeling of frustration, or a feeling of anxiety, or here's a feeling of boredom. Acknowledge it, let it know it's there, and keep your attention on your breath. So life is like a stage show. And on that stage are all your thoughts, and all your feelings, and everything that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. In this exercise, you dim the lights on the stage and focus the spotlight on your breathing. And now it's time to bring up the rest of the lights. This breathing is happening inside a body, so now bring up the lights on your body. Set up in a chair and notice your arms, leg, head, neck, chest, and abdomen. Your body is inside a room, so now bring up the lights on the room around you. Look around and notice what you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch. And notice what you're feeling. And notice what you're thinking. So there's a part of you in there that can notice everything. Whatever you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, think, feel, or do in any moment. So that brings it into the exercise. So stretch if you need to. Who had a hard time just breathing? I mean, whose mind drifted constantly? Yeah, and that's normal. My mind drifts. As much as I like this or any of the related techniques, my mind is I'm always having to bring it back. And that's really normal. We're not really taught to sit there and just really focus on what's going on around us very much. Did anyone have any negative, and you don't have to say what negative feelings, but did you have negative feelings come up while doing this? Did sad stuff come up or painful stuff come up while you were doing this? Yeah, and people will do this and things will just kind of come up that weren't really kind of on their mind at the moment. My guess is probably that stuff's really important, but they've been distracting themselves with other things. And when you're quiet and can be kind of in the present moment, all these things will kind of come up. Did anyone have positive stuff come up? Like stuff they really liked and made them happy? Yeah, and that can distract us too. So what did anyone think? Did anyone find that helpful or interesting or bleh? Yeah. Right, so this helps bring up feelings that can actually, something can be done with them after. And I agree with that this can really kind of dig up emotions that you may be kind of pressing down or, do some of us avoid things by keeping ourselves so busy that we don't think or feel about them anymore? Yeah, people will go through a bad breakup and their friends will be like, oh, keep busy to keep your mind off of it. And, we have that all the time. And, I guess we're avoiding that emotion, but at the same time, we're letting it dictate and trap us. And what mindfulness is suggests that if you just let it be there, it's kind of like if someone's afraid of spiders and the spider is right next to them, they're going to flip out for a few minutes. But if they can just let that spider be there, after a few minutes, it'll be a little less scary. And your thoughts are the same way. If you can let your thoughts and emotions be there, they're much more manageable and reasonable. And that's not to say this can't be overwhelming sometimes for some people, or you won't have feelings of hurt, or it can be really painful letting your emotions come up. But I would argue it's more healthy than spending your life avoiding them by being either in the future or in the past. There's lots of free resources online. And by free resources, there's all kinds of things. There's worksheets, there's mindfulness recordings that would walk you through things very similar to that. Mindfulness groups. Yes. Yeah, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this, with the anxiety. People who are anxious tend to worry about the future, and people who are depressed tend to worry about the past. And that's a little bit of an oversimplification. But really in therapy, it's, kind of what we kind of got a taste of today. It's just learning not to ruminate on the past or present and just experience the now, and not to become what we'd call fused with emotions. Have you ever had a thought or a feeling, like if it was written on here, be like this, where it's all you can see? Like really you walk around the day and the whole world, right? And what we try to do is kind of not make it go away, because that's impossible, but kind of push it back. So yeah, whatever unpleasant thought or feeling, breakup, crappy test, whatever, is still right here and you can still see it, but you can see some of the world around it. And I think this exercise is helpful because it kind of centers you and brings you back to the moment, right? Because if I'm worrying about the breakup or the test, I'm not worrying about the here and now, right? I'm worrying about something crappy that happened or something bad that's going to happen. And so, really with problems with mood or anxiety, it is fantastic. And mindfulness is also kind of a part of several kind of theoretical orientations like ACT, for example, or DBT, or all these others. And they will do what's very similar to like what you would do with a random drug trial where you randomly assign people, and it competes very well against, for example, mindfulness and ACT or whatever with depression or anxiety, and they'll compare treatments of it compared to drugs and compared to more traditional techniques like CBT and all these other things, and it generally turns out to be a very favorable treatment, as good if not better than most other treatments. Again, there's a lot of studies out, so I don't want to make a blanket statement, but the data is overwhelmingly supportive of it to be as good if not better than most other techniques.